Welcome to Big News Wednesday. Yes, it's the first of 4 big purple news Wednesdays with me, Iadarola, and Sharon. Reed is back. Sharon, how's it going?
It's going great. How about you?
Feel different than normal. Yeah. It's the week, it's the weather, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, they got what they wanted. The Draganathon was a big success. And so now I am, as you can tell, quite purple. It's a big responsibility, but it's one I bear.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, very glad to have you here. How are you doing?
Doing great. We have water now in Atlanta. Still under that boil alert, though.
Oh yeah. What's going on in Atlanta?
It's I think even made international news where the water's been out, all these water main breaks, and it's like, what's that game? Is it Whack-A something? It's like when one blows and then they fix that and then another one blows, and so it's been a lot to handle.
Oh, okay.
It's only gonna cost billions to fix, but hey, who's counting?
Yeah, no, they should be able to fix it quickly. I mean, there's been no other prior incidents having to do with water access in the area, so I'm sure they'll be ready. But anyway, that's unfortunate. What is fortunate is that we have a pretty awesome rundown, a lot to talk about today on the show, having to do with Trump's legal troubles and the Republicans trying to save him from them. We've got right-wing reactions to Joe Biden's border executive order. Do they like what he's doing? Do they not? Stay tuned to find out. I know you're in suspense. And the Congressional Black Caucus had to push back against something Marjorie Greene said. It's the sort of sentence that we could probably say on a weekly basis. Seems almost inevitable at this point. But anyway, that's just in the first hour. Lots to come in the aftermath as well. We'll be talking about what country Don Jr. might be fleeing to when he inevitably bails on the US, and Jesse Waters on parenting. And Jesse Waters' parents on parenting. That should be fun. And will teach us a lot about him, probably more than about parenting. But anyway, with that said, we got a lot to get to. I also wanted to say, so we're going through a list of the leaderboard for the Draganathon, making sure that everybody gets their reward. And we're figuring out as we go how to do that. And so Gabby Mathis told us what reward she wanted, but then realized we need to communicate about other things. So if Gabby is there, and as we go down through the list of other people, if you could send an email with your name, your handle, to rewards@tyt.com, we want to be able to communicate back and forth to make sure that you get everything that you deserve. So with that, why don't we talk about the news? The Republican effort to protect Donald Trump at all costs, even potentially the cost of our system of government, is in full effect. And they're willing to do anything, no matter how crazy, no matter how unprecedented, to see him return to the White House. Here's a few of their ideas.
That's why we got legislation which says no federal money can go to Fani Willis, no federal money can go to any of these rogue state prosecutors like Bragg and Willis, who are going after, using lawfare, going after their political opponents, and any special counsel that is out there who wasn't approved by the Senate should be defunded as well. That's our legislation. In addition, we've also got, you should be able to move the venue to federal court, which was legislation we passed months ago out of the committee.
So that's all crazy. I mean, that's not even the extent of it. Jordan also last week called on the Supreme Court to somehow save Trump, not on the merits of the case or anything, but to just assert that the president, at least a Republican president, can do whatever he wants. And there were multiple ideas there. Defunding state prosecutors because you don't like that they read the law accurately, charged him, convinced a grand jury, convinced a jury, and they found him guilty of the crimes because he's your guy. The fact that you don't like that, okay, I get not liking it. I don't get defunding the prosecution and focusing on how they're using lawfare against their political opponents. Hunter Biden is on trial right now. Jim Jordan doesn't have much to say in defense of the family member of the president. It seems almost like hypocrisy. But did you notice the most clownish thing that he suggested there? It was at the end. And it's this: conservatives want a floor vote on a bill that would allow current or former presidents to move any state case brought against them, such as the one in New York that resulted in Trump's conviction, to federal court, according to multiple House Republicans. And I think we all understand what this is about, because if they move it to federal court and if you become president, then you can just, and it's gone. and there's no charges anymore. Damn the federalism that they've been such fans of over the past few years. States' rights, but not in this arena, I suppose. So not only would this protect him in New York, but it would also protect him in Georgia, the Fani Willis prosecution. If any of the fake elector schemes in Michigan or Pennsylvania or Arizona go to a full trial, and at the very least, the Arizona one seems like it's going to, then again, he could snap his fingers and that's done. Again, who cares about states' rights? Who cares about the law? Who cares about the Constitution? They want their guy back in the White House. And what do you think about it, Sharon?
I think it's so nutty that it almost makes the call sound perfect and beautiful and lock her up reasonable. They'll just be so transparent about what they're seeking here. One set of rules for that guy with the orange shoe, and another set of rules for the other guy who rides his bike and supports his son through difficulties that a lot of Americans have faced. I think that they have no shame, but each day they one up themselves. I actually do think the call was perfect now.
Yeah. Look, they have to, both because they do want to accomplish this, but also whether they accomplish it or not, they have to show their deference. They have to bow down, and the person who bows the deepest and the longest wins the day, I suppose. In any event, the fact that they're proposing it is crazy, but I don't want people to freak out just yet, because Donald Trump does not have the sort of unified unilateral control over government that he obviously thirsts for. And even a House Republican close to Mike Johnson says that a floor vote on the bill is unlikely at the moment. And even if it did come to a floor vote, not all Republicans are even on board, at least as of right now. Representative Mike Garcia of California told Axios that he's, quote, not a big fan of changing jurisdictions of cases through federal legislation. And Representative Nick LaLota of New York said Congress has to respect federalism. So hey, there's at least one Republican who is holding up that is a principle of theirs or whatever. Interestingly, both of those districts are ones that Joe Biden won in 2020. So a little bit of political pragmatism here. They're worried that if they totally subvert the law to protect one man in particular, that they might lose their positions. And by the way, even if they were to pass it in the House, the Senate is not gonna approve this. And I have a feeling Joe Biden wouldn't sign it, although he's being really hands-off with Donald Trump. Are we sure that he wouldn't sign it? And after all, remember, Jim Jordan's talking about the lawfare of the left. But he also is totally cool with all the threats that everyone on the right is making on a daily basis, that they're gonna do this exact same thing to the Democrats, including Joe Biden. Maybe for Joe Biden, it would be pragmatic to pass this, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And also, before we move on, I also wanna be clear, this isn't gonna pass, they're not gonna get it, but that doesn't mean that there aren't things that they can do to screw over the American people as part of their hissy fit over supporting Donald Trump. One GOP senator aims to block floor action over the Trump conviction, and other Republicans have signed on to it in this open letter. And you see that and you think, wait, what floor action? All of it, everything. They don't want anything to happen in government because of the Trump conviction. Now, they haven't pulled the trigger on this yet, but it's something that they're considering, just trying to effectively end governance in the United States as a protest for the fact that Donald Trump, who definitely committed this crime and a jury convicted him, could suffer some sort of consequences, which probably won't amount to much more than a slap on the wrist. Any other thoughts, Sharon?
Well, they're the party, they get an A+ and stalemate and delay and do nothing, okay, except insult people and throw all decorum out the window. I used to think, well, there's a bunch of clowns in Washington who don't do much for all of us, but this party has taken it to new heights. So my final thought would be that they'll just continue this, and maybe old folks, seniors won't get their checks, and people won't get to eat, and there'll be furloughs and everything else. And it's something we've been through, but perhaps not at this level.
Yeah, and look, there's like 3 levels that should feel like that could theoretically have the responsibility for this put on them. Donald Trump at the very top has taken over the Republican Party, has taken over. Like you can't, again, if something bad happens to him, that's the only thing that matters in America.
Yeah.
That's self-interested. I can only be so angry at him. This is who he is. We always knew that. The Republicans, like Jim Jordan, the politicucks or whatever, like they see their future evaporating if Donald Trump doesn't like them or doesn't win. So I can't be that mad at them. They were never principled. It's not like this is that different than how they always are. No, it's the voters. It's the voters that are okay with this. All these people who actually are suffering from economic troubles, housing troubles, health insurance troubles, all those things that are okay with governance being distilled down to just what can we do to help Donald Trump, who's a literal billionaire? And they're okay with it. They'll if they were to shut things down, would that help them in November 5th? No, I don't think so. I don't think the independents would be interested. But I don't think that the Republicans would be mad. And that's sick. It's just sick. And we can't heal them, okay, from the outside. They won't let it. We also can't literally heal them if they get sick because they don't believe in medicine anymore. They have to heal themselves. But let's turn now to that top level with Donald Trump. Trump, while all of this Republican defense of him is going on, continues to step on rakes as he makes the rounds in conservative media. We have two amazing examples of this, and I want you to stick around for the second because that's the one that might end up costing him millions upon millions of dollars. But here's the first.
There's no way, you heard me say long before the verdict, that Mother Teresa couldn't get a fair trial here. I said that. And no, you couldn't. I never saw a glimmer of a smile from the jury. No, this was a venue that was very unfair. It's a tiny fraction of the people are Republicans, and it's very unfair. And then we had a judge who was very unfair.
Okay, so look, was the judge unfair? I don't think that's a fair read. I think the judge ruled in Trump and his team's favor multiple times. But I'm gonna focus on the jury for a few obvious reasons. First of all, look at how privileged this pompous little puffball is, that if he doesn't see people just beaming at him all the time, you're being unfair to me. Give us a smile, come on. Who else thinks that people are obligated to smile at them everywhere they go? Plenty of American men, unfortunately. But in a legal sense, who actually believes that? And look, it's weird and it's privileged and all that, but that's not the biggest problem here for Donald Trump. There's another problem, and it's in this document. This document that describes the terms of his gag order says that it's a violation to, quote, make or direct others to make public statements about any prospective juror or any juror in this criminal proceeding. So look, I don't know if the judge is gonna be, super hardcore about this. Maybe he doesn't care about the violations of the gag order, but he definitely should care because they're doxing people left and right. They doxed Michael Cohen and his whole family. They're going for the jurors. This is part of a campaign that has been going on since before the jury was even selected to get Republicans around the country to believe that the jurors are traitors. They betrayed Donald Trump. They hate Donald Trump. There could still well be violence against them. And so that makes gag order violation 11. But I want to play one more video for you because this thing that he said in right-wing media potentially is even more consequential. Watch this.
This is a cabal. This is a terrible thing that's happening. Giving a woman that I have no idea, that case, no idea, other than the fact that she had a picture taken many, many years ago. I've never met this woman. I don't know this woman. And I'm supposed to pay a ridiculous amount of money for a fictional story. And Judge Engoron, I built a great company. The company turned out to be much better than anybody ever thought. And he fined me almost $500 million.
Yeah, because the fraud that you perpetrated, the hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud, that was the part. You left it out, which seems weird since it's so crucial to that story, but you left it out. But forget the fraud. Let's focus on E. Jean Carroll, who he didn't name because he's still a coward, never forget that. But that is the exact sort of defamation that has cost him $93 million already. It's the exact sort of defamation that he's been doing since that verdict that has resulted in E. Jean Carroll's lawyers saying that all options are on the table. And I don't know, she's already gotten a lot of money from him, but if she'd like another 50 million or whatever, hit him up, okay? He's certainly willing to continue defaming it. But hold on just one sec, because before we discuss this, Greg Kelly, the host or whatever, there's no reason you should know his name. There's no reason I should know his name. He's squirming while Donald Trump is saying that. I think because he knows that Trump is turning his platform into just a place for defamation that could potentially cost them a bunch of money. Greg Kelly, of course, is not actively defaming E. Jean Carroll, but he knows that it's defamation. And he also knows, more importantly, that he can't say anything against Donald Trump because that'll be the entire end of his career in media or whatever. He has no backbone, he has no integrity, so he's got to just like squirm like he wants to stop him, but he can't. Although, in his defense, even if he were to try, I don't think he'd succeed. Take a look at this.
$100 million
It's wild.
with nothing.
Mr. President,
And he's the one that's the fraud, because he said a house that's worth $1 billion or more is worth $18 million. Everyone's trying to figure it out. You know, you buy a piece of land.
I've been that person, by the way. I've been that house. Like, no, we gotta. Sorry, the great point. But we got. He obviously he's not going to cut off Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is just blathering, and Greg Kelly with his body language is showing he sees Trump in much the way we do. He's just an old blowhard that doesn't know when to stop talking. And I love that Greg Kelly couldn't help but show that to us. So I apologize. That was a lot, Sharon. But what do you think?
Greg Kelly, the Nepo baby, I found the performance to be a little inauthentic. Okay, the mouth open for about 3 to 4 seconds. I wish a fly would have flown in there. He could have stopped him. He could have cut his mic, but you're right. He's a coward. He's a prop there doing what props do. Look, I mean, this is overacting, John. I can't believe you respect this. Do you really think that he was thinking about interrupting or just pretending to think about interrupting Donald Trump and the lies and the defamation? I will say this, though.
Good point.
He was brilliant, Donald Trump, in not mentioning E. Jean Carroll, because with most people who would only be accused of this, God forbid, once in their lifetime, there's so many women who he could be talking about. You would never be able to prove without him specifically stating her name that it's her.
That is a good point. And that, look, I have Trump derangement syndrome or whatever, but for Trump, that might be a good defense. He could be talking about literally dozens of women who've made these accusations.
He doesn't remember.
Yeah, anyway, well, that's Trump. Trump lawyer Todd Blanche is on his podcast tour, and a lot of it, like going on these right-wing outlets, seems to be designed to like subtly throw Trump under the bus for torpedoing their defense of Trump, like defending his own reputation. But occasionally it delves into true substance. Listen to this.
People took a picture and saw the candy and stuff in the war room. Was it McDonald's for lunch every single day, or did you get something else?
Oh, no. Well, first of all, I didn't have lunch one day. Because
you didn't eat during. You have to eat during the trial. What do you mean?
I ate in the morning and at night. Well, so the food. Look, the President Trump's team takes care of everybody. Like everybody gets food. There's a lot of food. It's not always McDonald's. There's a variety. There's pizza and there's other non-healthy alternatives to McDonald's.
I love that. Todd Blanche, he's a goon and a lackey for Trump, but he's been willing, as soon as the trial ended and he starts going to the media, I'm not gonna say that he's not pulling his punches, but he's poking Trump a little bit. He's not gonna punch him, but like, oh yeah, no, he was involved in choosing the jury that he hates. And we wanted to testify, we wanted more witnesses, but he got involved. And now it's like, yeah, no, it wasn't just McDonald's. There was pizza and other non-healthy alternatives. He didn't need to say that. He could have said there's a variety of types of food or whatever, but he had to throw Donald Trump's culinary excesses under the bus alongside the former president. But that said, he didn't succumb. It was a high pressure situation, this trial, and there's a lot of food and a lot of candy around, but Todd Blanche stayed strong. Watch this.
But look, I loved it because you come in from lunch and as you know, when you're on trial, you're trying to figure out what the heck you're going to stuff in your belly with the hour that you have. And we would walk in and there would just be just plethora of like just food everywhere. But I always take trials as an opportunity to lose a few pounds. So, it's my own little way to
Did you lose weight?
Yes, absolutely. I think I lost, I haven't weighed myself since the verdict, but 7 or 8 pounds during the trial,
Wow.
So.
I mean, if that's true, that's a lot to lose over the course of just like a 5-week trial or whatever. And I love the contrast. It's like, oh no, they were filling that place with candy because some people couldn't stop eating it, but I got trimmed during it, I added a couple pull-ups to my routine. I love that. And stick around in a few minutes. We're gonna break down that photo that actually Don Jr. provided. We'll get to that, but Sharon, what do you make of this?
Blanche was actually trolling Trump, but it went over Trump's head. Okay, Stephen Miller probably had to pull him aside. Steve Bannon, hey, here's what's really going on. He's making fun of you. I think it's fun. This guy does not want to be anywhere near Donald Trump and is probably begging right now in his way to be fired. He will not see the next trial down in Florida, which Judge Cannon has made sure that won't happen anyway. But I think it's lovely and somewhat highbrow when your client, and by the way, he lost the pounds not because it was easy to resist all the junk food, but because his client gives him indigestion, like the rest of us. He couldn't eat. It was just this day in and day out of popping Tums because of his client.
Just feeling sick. Look, I will say this sort of thing I think is funny, but I will say, although I do not like ever to draw any sort of comparison between myself and Donald Trump, this is probably the area where we're the most the same. I don't traditionally have the best diet, and it's difficult to change after decades of habits. And honestly, when I get stressed out, I stress eat too. So I'm not even being sarcastic. I have some sympathy for Donald Trump in this. He's in this trial. He wants to appear strong, but he's eating his feelings. And I would be doing the same thing. I do that when I'm not even potentially risking 4 years in prison. But that said, the comparison continues because his choice of snacks actually has some overlap with what I like. So this was put up by Don Jr. So Don Jr. put this on TikTok, again, using his father to try to get followers. This guy is so thirsty to be famous. Wealth has not provided him with any solace, any satisfaction. He thinks fame will. I doubt it. But in that photo, you can actually see quite a few snacks in front of Donald Trump. That includes a half-finished 20-ounce Diet Coca-Cola, an opened bag of Lay's potato chips, a box of Milk Duds, a Milky Way bar, a theater-sized box of Whoppers malted milk balls, and what appeared to be 4 Hostess snowballs. Now, I like every single one of those things. I think that Whoppers are good to a certain point. I think Milk Duds are underrated. That said, that is a hell of a thing to accompany your McDonald's lunch. I like all that. Look, honestly, Trump's go-to McDonald's meal, which Corey Lewandowski wrote about, 2 Big Macs, 2 Filet-O-Fish, and a chocolate shake. I'm not interested in the chocolate shake, but I love a Big Mac. I love a Filet-O-Fish. But the volume of that is just a gut punch. And everyone, bear in mind, we don't know the physical condition of most people in public life, but for Trump, we do. We know the result of Ronnie Jackson's physical examination of him, and it was revealed Donald Trump weighs less than I do. How can you eat that much at like a slim trim 230? What do you think, Sharon?
I too noted the volume, but I keep going to this. He is eating all that. I do believe that. He lies about everything else. That's not a lie. But I just kept thinking about the gas. Remember early on in the trial, there were these reports that the flatulence was just unbearable. There were people begging to go to the overflow room. That's how bad it was in the courtroom. So that's all I can think about when you read off that menu. And by the way, snowballs, really? I mean, your mom made the cookies. We've seen you eat the cookies, but you're nowhere near to this level. Those snowballs are disgusting. I mean, come on, really?
I think they're good. I'm not saying I haven't eaten one in years probably, and I cannot conceive of sitting down and eating 4. How could you possibly eat 4? But I think they're quite tasty actually. Yeah. But anyway, look, in closing, and kind of the reason I want to talk about this is what I think is interesting about this. And again, I'm like trying to show some compassion. The dude is super stressed out and I get it. When Trump launched his presidential bid, he said, and there seemed to be good visual evidence of this, that he was trying to get healthy for the campaign trail. It's difficult being on the campaign trail, let alone also balancing all these lawsuits and everything. And it seemed like he had lost like 15 pounds or something. But now he's back on the old habits. And I do think, and I can say this, I think from my own personal experience, I think this is a very strong indication of massive stress. I think he is worried about these trials. I think he is worried about the campaign. He's not acting, he's not eating like a person who's super confident that he's got this thing locked down. And I will draw optimism from literally anything I can. Right now, I draw it from the state of Donald Trump's digestive tract. Any other thoughts?
I do think he's worried. The whole fake thing where he closes his eyes. I know he was asleep for some of it, even though many in the mainstream media won't admit it. But other times he was closing his eyes to kind of like close out reality. I do think that he is concerned. He's also concerned because the mob isn't showing up for him like it had in previous years. He'd order them to do this or that, but they haven't really shown up in large numbers since January 6th when they, scurried into the Capitol and caused all that damage and defecated everywhere. So I think he's worried about a number of things. His children, I mean, they showed up that one day, but it's like, how much did he have to pay them? I mean, even Tiffany was there, I believe. She showed up at the trial for sentencing.
She showed up? She showed up.
Verdict, rather. The verdict, yes. Sentencing still to come.
Big 7-Eleven day.
Right.
2-for-1 snowballs, I hear, at 7-Eleven. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Lots to talk about on the other side of this. I know that a lot of people like down that the food is good. It's not good for you, obviously. But like people be like, he eats filet-o fish. Look, I make jokes about how one will probably end up killing him, and I stand by that. But I don't criticize the choice. They're delicious. And Big Macs are good. They just are. 6 billion plus sold, I hear. Anyway, we're not sponsored by McDonald's, but I don't rule it out. Okay, let's jump to some comments. Also, we got a message from Gabby. So the email to send to, and this goes to everyone on the leaderboard, but right now Gabby's first choice is rewards@tyt.com. Rewards plural @tyt.com. And look forward to talking with you. Okay, with that said, let's jump to some comments. LP Revolt Dragon says snowballs sounds like he's eating kitties. He's not Christy Gnome. But James Clark says snowballs are pretty disgusting. What is disgusting about them? Someone in the chat described them as marshmallow covered cupcakes, which yes, makes me question my choices when you put it that way, but it's just a cupcake covered with nature's perfect substance, marshmallow. Anyway, oh my God, could you do a toasted snowball? The coconut might burn. But what if you could have gooey marshmallow? Okay, I'll think about that on my own time. Okay, let's see. Okay. Cult members are incapable of escaping their own traps. Some deserve to be saved, but how? That was Kissing Gonzo. Velvet Goldmine says, yes, John, you can hold them accountable for preferring to remain employed rather than standing up for democracy. They don't get a pass for choosing comfort over conflict. No. I was not saying that I don't judge them. I'm just saying that my judgment of them is inconsequential. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. They don't rely on me support. I can't influence them, so there's not much I can do. Is there a marshmallow Pop-Tart? Is there a marshmallow covered Pop-Tart? There could be. I have the technology. Okay, let's see. Tai Chi Chuan Dragon says this effing made up word lawfare needs to be stricken from the TDR vocab. I disagree. I think that with the right disclaimer, it now has a useful and very specific description or explanation, or I'm gonna go with definition. It means when you know your guy is guilty and you think nobody should do anything about it. If you do something about the guy who's totally guilty, it's lawfare. Now, you would say legal troubles for something that maybe was up in the air or we didn't know for sure. But when you use lawfare, you are signaling that your guy definitely did it. It's true 100% of the time. Robbie Dragon, welcome to Tier 1 membership. Thank you for being here. Dami Mommy Matrix gifted a membership. Love to see it. By the way, if you are potentially close to ending your 1-month gifted membership from the Dragonathon, consider continuing. There are a lot of benefits to being a member. You get access to exclusive members content. We're gonna be doing a special Meanwhile In with Francesca Fiorentini later this week. I'm gonna be putting out the video of the process of doing my hair. You get the colored name of the chat, you get your emojis and all that. We recently added both Purple Hair John and the crying dumb donkey emoji. So there's a lot of fun to be had. So consider becoming a member. Gabby Mathis, I'd gotten your super chat. Hope that was helpful. Thank you. Let's see. Jeff Raywell Stewart says in a super chat, I bet Trump was smiling at those 5 boys falsely accused of murder, turning it around on him with the jury. Definitely. You know how much Trump wants to see people die if he's willing to spend his own money on an advertisement to make it happen? Damn. That was 4 minutes. Damn, sometimes the social break goes fast. That felt like a minute and a half. But that said, okay, more news starting with this.
He has blood on his hands. And when some of these people from either China or Russia or Iran or Syria or Yemen or Egypt or Afghanistan or Kazakhstan, one of those terror cells, which I'm pretty certain are here. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
They are.
When
They
there's
tragically are. And the FBI is telling us they're here.
So it's a matter of when, not if.
Yes.
And how
tragically,
sad is that? Yes. Yeah. Well, there'll be a lot of dead Americans, and they'll have blood on their hands.
Oh yeah, no, you can tell from their body language, they would hate for that to happen. They don't want a terror attack on Biden's watch. No, think of the Americans. They're salivating for it. They're hoping for it. And they're also, by the way, never forget, assisting in it happening, were it to happen. Individual, criminal acts, terror attacks. If they actually think that our supposedly open border is leading to those things, maybe they could stop reform at the border that even they say would help to get those numbers down. And even they admit in that clip would get those numbers down, which Ted Cruz can't help but do.
This immigration order that's coming tomorrow, Joe Biden's going to stand up and say, we're securing the border. And you know what? I'm going to predict in the next 5 months, we're actually going to see the border numbers go down a little bit. Now, don't be deceived by that. It's just like the gasoline prices going down a little bit. They're doing this right before the election. They're doing it so the useful idiots in the corporate media will say, gosh, Biden solved the problem. Nothing else to worry about here. It is entirely fake.
That is hilarious. First of all, it's not entirely fake. You described a process wherein there's a problem. He does something to fix it. It actually does fix it. And that's fake? I don't understand exactly what. Why would that be fake? He would be doing exactly what you say you want Trump to do. This whole shutting down the border thing, this isn't some sort of progressive dream proposal. AOC isn't advocating for this. Republicans have been advocating for this for literally years. And that follows in a long line of Joe Biden from day one doing at the border virtually everything that the Republicans ask for and has never gotten any credit for it. He continued many of the Trump border policies a couple years into his first term. They tried to pass a border bill that was crafted to the desires of the right, which Ted Cruz voted multiple times to kill. And now, because he can't get anything through Congress, which wants the border to be open so they can point to the chaos and say, thus we need Donald Trump. Instead, he's going the route of an executive order and doing the exact things that they're saying they want Trump to do. Except when Biden does it, it's all of a sudden a problem. Again, it's enough to make you think they want chaos, they want crime, they want the crossings. And I'll also point out, by the way, he says that the numbers going down as a result of a change at the border would be fake. The numbers are already 30% less than they were a year ago. I know if you're a Fox viewer, that's gotta blow your mind because you damn sure didn't hear it on Fox, but it's true. The number of border crossings has come down significantly from a year ago, even in the absence of legislation and executive orders. Now, Biden, again, I don't like the path he's going down. I don't agree with what he's going to do, but conservatives do as long as you tell them it's a Republican that's doing it. Sharon, what do you think of this?
The most unpatriotic thing, and Ted Cruz has said a lot. He actually wants America to suffer hurt, crime, even if he's basing it on his old tropes and stereotypes. He wants some kind of chaos and perhaps even terrorism. Is the most unpatriotic thing I've ever heard. This president has acted with this executive order. Trump would call it, dictatorship, which I would think he would like, to get a problem under control. And he's adopted their blueprint almost. I mean, hook, line, and sinker here, minus, kids in cages. And you're right, the numbers have been going down. This will make them go down even further. I, like you, don't like this direction, but it is what it is. Either you were for it and now you're not because of political reasons, or you were never for it. Which is it? I think we know in Ted Cruz's case and some others. How's Greg Abbott? He's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, no, I think I actually talked to Sean Hannity yesterday, and they again implied that there is a crisis that needs to be solved, but don't let Biden do anything to solve it. Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm not shocked that Joe Biden is going in this direction on the border. I never considered him a progressive in general, let alone when it comes to the border, because I know his history. The right is being very weird about it, though. And really fast, again, the proclamation that he signed, this executive order, declared that asylum rights should be suspended whenever migration surged past a certain number. And hey, what do you know? They set that threshold. at lower than it already is right now, which means instantly. That's what I don't like about it. Like, you're gonna help, I guess, with crossings, but at what cost? A cost that a lot of progressives don't want to be paid. But again, the right supposedly always does. Now, Biden, I guess, is worried about progressives being angry about this, so he's trying to nuance it. He says, I will never demonize immigrants. I'll never refer to immigrants as poisoning the blood of a country. And further, I'll never separate children from their families at the border. That remains to be seen. I will not ban people from this country because of their religious beliefs. So I believe some of that, I guess, although some claims of asylum are about religious persecution. So are you not kind of doing that? And sure, you won't use the rhetoric, but I hate the rhetoric from Trump, both objectively and also because it signals what he's going to do. If you're still gonna do those things, that's not much better than just doing the things and having the rhetoric. So again, I know what he's trying to accomplish here. And he's not gonna get the credit from the right that I think he envisions. Now, that said, I want to turn to sort of the opposite side of this issue, which is another interaction on Fox, but one in which a Republican actually admits why the border is in the state that it's in.
I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways after President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election. It's the single biggest issue during the election. Don't resolve this. We'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it. My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this.
That Fox host's name eludes me, Sharon, maybe you remember it, but that is
that Cavuto?
That's actually,
I don't know.
Yeah, Cavuto, I think you're right. That was actually kind of shocking to hear, him being totally willing to, like, everything he said was accurate. Everything he said was true, and thus very surprising to hear it on Fox News. That's why they killed the bill. That's 100%. That is the core of the hypocrisy. And he admitted it, and Lankford also admitted it. And you love to see it. I hope that it gets through to some conservatives. Do you think there's any chance of that? It was on Fox News.
No, and something tells me Cavuto's going to go on the vacation like O'Reilly did and never come back. I mean, this can't continue. We're 5 months out. So, but frustrated. And you remember because the congressman was seated right there and they had a spotlight on him during the State of the Union address when Joe Biden talked about it in the border. And he confirmed it right there too. He said, he mouthed the words, it's true, I believe. So they can tell the truth occasionally, okay? But I wouldn't look for this to be a systemic thing. It's just in that moment, a flash in time. It's like a meteor that just darts by and then before you know it, it's gone. And I believe this is the same kind of thing. Cavuto will be back to mostly joining his colleagues if he's not on that permanent vacation.
Well, look, we are always looking for opportunities to give credit. But anyway, let's turn to someone who I don't think yet has ever given us one of those opportunities. Take a look at this.
We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. He is a convicted well, yeah, so is George Floyd. And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the country over George Floyd, and Raskin is in there saying we worship him. Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump.
She seems nice. I don't buy that she worships God, and I think that even if she does, I think in this case, God would be like, I'm good. Actually, could you look into one of the other deities? I've got a lot of followers. I think it's enough. But that was Marjorie Greene after Monday's House subcommittee meeting about the origins of COVID, where she was defensive about the accusations that she was part of the cult that she's definitely a part of, and wanted to turn it around on Democrats in the media worshiping George Floyd, who rose to prominence and notoriety, or whatever, fame, I guess, a fame that was obviously not wanted in 2020 as a result of having been murdered by the police and starting the social justice protests that we saw. She really likes this argument. She thinks she's landed on something here because she also tweeted it saying, "I'm tired of Democrat antics claiming Republicans worship Donald Trump." That's not what the word antics means. Whatever. "I worship God. Democrats are still worshiping convicted felon George Floyd." Again, the claim that because people thought that it was wrong that a man was murdered on tape as he begged for his life means that we worship him is really weird. The fact that 4 years after that man was tragically killed, Marjorie Greene hates him, a person who she only knows because he was murdered. Hating the victim of murder is a weird way to follow up talking about how you worship God. I don't think God would be on the side of literally any of this, but then also throwing in convicted felon, which is, I thought, not a bad thing anymore. I thought that wasn't supposed to be a black mark on someone's record. Turns out it really depends on some other facts about the person. There's some context that's necessary for figuring out if being a felon is a bad thing or in fact a good thing. Is it street credit or is it a damnation? Sharon, what do you think?
She is so consistent with her nonsense and her disgustingness at this point. It reminds me of like a hairball that a cat coughs up. It is consistent, okay? It's gross, it's sausage shaped, it's disgusting, but it's necessary every time they have things that they lick, loosen the hair, dead skin, whatever, and then it doesn't pass fully through their digestive system. It has to come up. It has to come up. And I'm sorry if someone is eating and listening or watching this, but when Marjorie Taylor Greene speaks her gobbledygook nonsense, that's what it reminds me of. A disgusting hairball that a cat has coughed up.
Man, I know every week Francesca and Brett try to gross me out. I don't think they've ever succeeded as much as your hairball analogy.
It's too much.
It's true, but also gross.
Yeah.
In any event, yeah, I just think about this. They worship Kyle Rittenhouse, who they only know because he killed people needlessly. And they hate a person who they only know because he was killed needlessly. Again, I'm not a religious man, as so many of them claiming to be are not truly, but the inversion of reality, like that's, if you're a religious person, this is utterly sick what you're witnessing. But again, on the topic of worship, she then goes on to tweet this. And as always, I'm not gonna read her entire message because dear God, why did tweets ever get this long? But anyway, she goes on and on about her quote, favorite things about President Trump. Like a 4-year-old being asked to do an essay about why they love their cat. She lists the favorite things she has, that he's nice. The grab him by the P word guy, known for being so nice and kind-hearted and caring about everyone, and on and on and on. If we go to the second tweet, there's more and more and more, and he loves his family. He loves his extended family. I'm gonna include the mistresses in there as well, both the consensual ones as well as the non-consensual ones. Every single one of them, and they love him. He can't even remember all of their names, Marjorie. But anyway, the Congressional Black Caucus ended up having to put out a statement pushing back against this insane thing about George Floyd. Look, I said yesterday on the show that I unfortunately have hit the limits of my vocabulary in that I cannot come up with a word that truly, accurately, and sufficiently describes what I think about Marjorie Greene. But I can also say on the topic of racism, she is an old school hardcore racist. Just like, if you plop her down in 1850, oh, she would love it, man. The stuff she could do, she's wealthy, lives down the South. That's the sort of person she is, but she is not alone in this. Don Jr., who will never allow anyone else to out-garbage him, posted this on Instagram. A photo of George Floyd with the comment, Democrats, quote, "I don't know how you can support a felon." So this isn't about worship, this is about support. And I know that it is impossible to get through to Don Jr. because his mind is just floating in a cloud of vaporized cocaine. They killed George Floyd. Democrats weren't pushing him to be president. They supported him in that they said it was bad that he was murdered. Do you see the difference between that and nominating your guy who willfully commits a variety of crimes in the public eye for president? Are you capable at this point of understanding the distinction between those two things, Don Jr.? And I ask this not rhetorically, send the video to him because I would love an answer. Sharon, any final thoughts?
They're two peas in a pod, and I think you're spot on when you talk about what Marjorie Taylor would want. She would thrive in the 50s, okay? Targeting Black women, women working in her house. If only it could be like that scene out of Hidden Figures. And one day somebody gets her back and serves her a plate of something that has a little extra ingredient. That's what what is wrong with me today? And I apologize.
What is wrong with you today?
She brings out the worst in me. And I don't want to gross people out, but I'm telling you, she is that like cult figure. She is a racist dream. Dear leader, okay? She's the one in the front row. And I apologize if maybe they'll cut this out later, if there has to be a disclaimer or something, but she's done it to me, and don't blame me. She's doing this to me. She's doing it to all of us. She's bringing out the worst in us. I can't help it. And I take personal responsibility, but in this one, I can't help it.
No, I understand. She makes everything worse. She makes the Republicans worse. She is just one of the grossest, dumbest people America has ever vomited up. And unfortunately, she's rich, so she gets to be in government. She's rich in a red district, so she gets to be in government. No qualifications, no positive attributes. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take our second break of the hour. But when we come back, we've talked about some of the unfortunately incredibly dark consequences of these abortion bans that have been passing over the past few years. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there. First of all, I have to respond to this because Corporations Ate My Baby says MTG has bleached blonde ambition, which is clever. I'll send it to Jasmine Crockett. But as a person who recently bleached my own hair, hey, not all of us are bad, okay? And I have the photos to back that up. You think this looks ridiculous. Someday I might come in here bleached blonde. It started to grow on me, honestly. But anyway, okay, with that said, Occam's taser almost certainly has gotten a Blueprint gift card, but Occam's, if you haven't, I want you to have one for this comment. This is about Marjorie Greene's video. She's pointing to the ceiling, so I assume she thinks the noise the AC makes in the vents is God. When it's 100 out, I worship the AC too. It's awesome. So if you didn't already have one, you got one. I like that. Okay, let's see. Roy Dunn said, someone give Trump a fried peanut butter and banana and see if it makes it into his regular diet. He can't run if he's always on the toilet. I think if you add honey to that, I think that's the thing that people think killed Elvis. I had it once. In Austin, there's a sandwich shop. It might be Witch Witch. Anyone familiar with Witch Witch? They have like 100 sandwiches all listed. And one was the Elvis thing. And I tried it once and I love sweets and I eat poorly. And that was too far. One of those things is too crazy. Anyway, okay, let's see. Hey, Moondragon gifting 5 memberships out there. I see you, Moondragon. Chaplain Fred gifting memberships too, 5 of them, thank you. I know everybody thinks that it's not trendy anymore to gift membership, that was a thing we used to do, but you're still allowed to do it, I'll remind you. Anyway, just in case, I don't think well, actually I haven't checked the email, so Gabby might well have already emailed us, but we're gonna adjudicate Gabby, and then I've talked to Poeticate, or we'll talk to Poeticate, and then Lady F&T, I don't know if you're out there. If you're out there, what reward would you like? And feel free to email us at rewards@tyt.com with your answer. And if you need, we can send you the full list with like explanations and everything, but I'd love to know. And thank you for all the gifting you did. Okay, with that said, Beth Basket, member for 3 months, says Trump does almost nothing but lie. He eats a lot of McDonald's, it turns out too. He lies and eats a lot of McDonald's. Give him his credit. One covert ninja. Remember, 41 months says sending love to all. How nice of you. Thank you. Okay, we have 119. Good. Christopher Moore says on a super chat, DJ Grimace's lunchbox in the house. Ouch. Combining when I was roasted by an SNL comedian with the fact that someone thinks a Grimace shake was dumped on my head. Thank you. Woke Dragon says, John, are you a Longhorn too? I was, in fact, a Longhorn. I went to grad school at UT Austin and had a great experience there. Okay, Pitchfork's Dragon says, I just realized who John's hair reminds me of. The Ninja Turtles villain Bebop. You wear it well though, John. Bebop. I always saw myself as a rock steady, but yes, I'll take Bebop and it's exactly Bebop. Great. I look like a cartoon hog. It was always gonna happen, I think. Anyway, let's see. Occam's Taser did not yet get one. So Occam's Taser, send an email to rewards@tyt.com with your handle saying that you got the Blue Apron gift card and we'll get you hooked up. Okay, with that said, do we have any time? Dee says, boo hoo hoo, they didn't smile at me. I don't want a 5-year-old victim card president. I don't either. God, the constant, never-ending entitlement. It must be exhausting. Maybe that's why he's so tired all the time. We'll be right back. Some of these comments I'm seeing. Okay, stop. I can't laugh. We're about to talk about something super serious. Let's jump into this. In the discussion around abortion and access to abortion-related healthcare, proponents often talked about the direct health risk to pregnant people due to medical complications. Now, this is undoubtedly important, but we also need to talk about the indirect risks to people's health if they don't have access to these services. That includes, by the way, the leading cause of death for pregnant and postpartum women in America, being murdered. Okay, this is an incredibly dark topic, but it has become very relevant as more and more states have limited or completely eliminated reproductive rights. We have this study by the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they've provided some data on how widespread reproductive coercion has become since Roe v. Wade was overturned. The survey found that 63% of all respondents were pressured or forced into having sex with a current or former partner when they didn't want to. And nearly 40% said their partner threatened them if they said no to sex. Around a quarter reported that their partner pressured them into becoming pregnant, and 13% said their partner used or threatened violence when they were pregnant with the intention of ending the pregnancy. More than 30% of respondents said they do not have access to an OBGYN or physician who focuses on reproductive health. So all of those are terrible concerns, but you can see a significant subset of that group, since they can't get an abortion legally, could well be harmed, attacked, brutalized to try to trigger the abortion they no longer have access to. This is not hypothetical. These are people saying that that's been threatened or that has already happened to them, and the numbers are growing up over time as more and more places make these procedures illegal. I want to give you this quote, by the way, from an attorney with If, When, How, Norin Elzarka, who said, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, our helpline has seen an increase in callers who are weighing the risks of their abusive relationship against the access to abortion. Survivors are being forced to walk the line of isolation and safety to get the abortion care that they need, while also minimizing their risks of criminalization and punishment by their abuser, as well as the state. And so again, like when we talk about people who have seemingly qualified for the exemptions under their states, but they can't actually get it. Women saying that they weren't dying enough to get the abortion that they needed. It doesn't even have to come to you being in the hospital at this point for people to suffer from violence and potentially murder as a consequence of the laws that have been passed. Sharon, what do you make of this?
Yeah, and we've known about these horrific statistics for a long time. Organizations, thoughtful women, people who care and have been through this, many of them. I am friends with someone who started a wonderful organization and fights on behalf of women every day because of her own story. This is proof about who's behind these measures. It's generally white men who are doing this, and the rest of us will suffer at their hands. It's as if they don't understand this because they don't even bother to pay attention. The world revolves around them. And it really is sick and it really is dangerous, particularly when a woman is trapped in this kind of circumstance and an abuser knows that nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And the trapping is definitely a thing. We have other quotes that are available about people who, one person recalled how her late abusive husband would purposefully impregnate me to force me to abort, just sick on so many different levels simultaneously. Another said that during her relationship with her abuser, quote, he would force me to have unprotected sex so I could have more children to further my financial and economic abuse, making it harder for me to leave. Now, look, being in that situation and being forced to go and have abortions is already a nightmare. But imagine being in that situation, and now if you do that, you could go to prison on top of it. And that is the complete lack of empathy that unfortunately so many state legislatures and senators and governors are acting under. And if we're unlucky after November, we could have something like this at the federal level as well. We just keep none of these, by the way, the medical complications, the people being denied under the exemptions, this sort of stuff. None of this is truly surprising. People predicted it, in fact, when Roe v. Wade was annihilated. But to see it play out exactly like that, to know the human cost of it is just absolutely gross. And it's worse to know that there are tons of Republicans that will completely ignore this, and even if they heard it, they wouldn't care. Now, I want to add one little extra wrinkle to this that is hardly a solution to any of the problems, but there have been some new advances supposedly in male birth control. And in a time when certain aspects of reproductive health care now wholly depend on what state you happen to live in, this could be an interesting option for some people. There was a phase 2 human trial of hormonal male birth control, which takes the form of a gel that apparently looks and smells like hand sanitizer and is apparently applied to your shoulders. So if you do that over enough weeks, it apparently can have a contraceptive effect. Apparently, after 12 weeks of applying the gel every day, 86% of trial participants achieved sperm suppression, meaning that they had only up to 1 million sperm per millimeter of semen, the amount of the researchers deemed effective for contraception. On average, the timing for effective contraception was 8 weeks. So it certainly takes a while, but that does significantly cut down the likelihood of you being able to conceive. This involved a couple hundred men aged 18 to 50, and they applied it to their shoulder blades every day. One participant, 24-year-old Logan Whitehead, said that he would definitely keep using it, especially after watching his partner struggle with available female birth control options. He said the gel was such an easy process. It was basically like taking the pill for the day. And he said that he didn't notice side effects using the gel beyond some upper back acne and possibly a bit of weight gain, although that could have been linked to a new sedentary job. And I've heard that there are side effects of female hormonal birth control, so seems fair, I suppose. What do you make of that as a new variable, by the way? It's not available. It still requires more testing and all that. So everyone pump the brakes, but what do you think?
I hope it proves safe and goes through all the testing, because I think it's only fair. It shouldn't just be the burden of women, the ones who have to carry babies, to protect themselves or use contraception. At some point, Clarence Thomas and Justice Alito, though, may try to take it off the table as well. But as you were reading how it works, right? You just do the shoulder thing on the shoulder blades, I guess. I was thinking about all the members of Congress I'd like to go to and offer like shoulder rubs. There's select ones. Jim Jordan, I normally wouldn't even touch someone like that, but I would love to give him a shoulder rub, and I can think of others.
100%. Yeah, I can. Like in some situations, I can imagine that being a covert way of trying to get out of some difficult situations. Obviously difficult and risky. But anyway, again, it's not actually available. It's going to require phase 3 trials before it becomes available. It's very expensive. And we've been hearing updates about birth control for years and years in a variety of different forms. Some of them seemingly successful, some of them don't work out. But it is a thing, and these are bold new times that we live in. That is unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of the show. More to come in the aftermath, though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome one and all back to the Aftermath with me, Iadarola, and Sharon Reed here as well. Sharon, thank you for being here.
Love it.
It's looking like
hair.
that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's
It is what it is. I don't think
it's different.
There's some
It's
variation to it. It's a little bit dark at the roots or whatever.
And
I think it actually
daughter?
looks. What's that?
I want to know how your daughter reacted.
Her first reaction, I got back from getting it done. It took like nearly 3 hours or whatever. She was very tight. She was about to go down for the night, and she was confused, and then maybe cried a little bit. She was a little bit scared. But she's good now. I just don't think kids, like, they recognize you based on a specific orientation of things. And so she was confused, but I think that she gets that it's me now. So, but I was thinking for a second, like, if she's still crying in like 3 days, I gotta cut it.
You gotta do something about it.
I can't ruin my relationship with my daughter over, our pet, basically. But thankfully, it looks like it won't come to that.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I don't know about that, but thank you. It's gotten some compliments, a few compliments. But anyway, okay, let's see. Corporations Ate My Baby says, John, they hate the great-great-grandchildren of those who were trafficked on ships from Africa just because they remind them of Africa for a variety of reasons, I think. But yeah, like there's no end to just hating people who you only know exist because they were victims of something. Hating George Floyd is effing sociopathic. I don't understand you as a person. Okay, let's see. Osborne says, John of the House Iadarola, the first of his name, the unburnt, king of the chat mods, the chat and the first Twitchers, Kalis of the great pink hair, it's purple, protector of the chat, Lord Regent of the Young Turks, breaker of chat trolls, and daddy of dragons. Thank you. I'm gonna have to get that on a plaque. And with that, let's talk more serious news. We're staying on the topic of reproductive rights, starting with this.
Let's say I was the governor, I had a willing legislature. We could pass a bill and say you can't have an abortion in North Carolina for any reason.
For me, there is no compromise on abortion. It makes no difference to me why or how that child ended up in that womb.
The abortion in this country is not about protecting the lives of mothers. It's about killing a child because you aren't responsible enough to keep your skirt down.
It's not your body anymore.
That is deranged. And bear in mind that man, Mark Robinson, is already in elected office. He is the lieutenant governor of North Carolina. And if things don't go the right way later this year, could well be the governor. The guy who says that people who become pregnant as a result of being raped, potentially raped by a family member, couldn't keep their skirt down. He talks like someone who used to have a show on NRA TV. He talks like a random troll on Rumble, and he's already in elected office. He wants to have a huge amount of political power over the lives of millions of people, and that's what he says about those people. That's what he thinks about those people, and he is filled with hatred and fear and suspicion, not only for women. We're gonna get to his thoughts about the LGBTQ community as well, but Sharon, I don't know how familiar you are with this guy. We've talked about him before, but he's one of the worst individuals, I think, running in this cycle. What do you make of him?
And he's picking up steam. Unfortunately, there's an audience and an appetite for this kind of disgustingness. I just feel for the people who are survivors, who go through this and never ever, victims of incest, victims of rape, who go through this, and it's hard enough to heal. But when you have this garbage being spewed at you and society, it's impossible to feel like you're ever gonna be whole again. I think it's just sick. But the sicker part is not the illness that is him. To me, it's the fact that there's an audience for it. I don't understand why you would want to consume this garbage.
I mean, if you're a hateful small person, I think it's good to focus the attention again onto the victims. You'll notice no rage for rapists. He doesn't seem to have a problem. People are talking in the chat about like, why is it about keeping your skirt down and not keeping it in your pants? He doesn't care. He does. It's fine for men to go and rape. You should have protected yourself. You are the reason that your rape happened. We've heard that from many, many men. Rarely, but not always, rarely, in elected office. And he feels comfortable with that sort of messaging. And unfortunately, as you alluded to, seems to be an audience. If you look at the most recent polls, he's either tied or up by 2 to 5 points in the last 3 polls that we have for North Carolina. He could well become governor. And since we're in Pride Month, if the hair didn't clue you into that, let's remind ourselves of what he thinks about the LGBTQ community as well. Back in 2021, he created an education task force to investigate and pull LGBTQ plus literature from public schools, as well as report instances of LGBTQ plus inclusion in schools. In 2019, he wrote a Facebook post against gender affirming care for minors, writing that trans children are being, quote, mentally raped by their parents and other supportive adults. In 2017, he wrote on Facebook, "You cannot love God and support the homosexual agenda." So they're being mentally raped by their parents. Wait, but is that a form of rape that's actually bad? Because you seem fine with the more conventional forms. I guess the mental one's the only bad one. In 2023, he declared that God had created him to battle against LGBTQ plus rights and added, quote, "makes me sick every time I see it. A church that flies that rainbow flag, which is a direct spit in the face of God Almighty." In 2021, he compared LGBTQ plus people to cow dung. He's also called them filth. He's told trans people to find a corner somewhere rather than go to the bathroom that matches their gender identity. There are a whole lot of different sorts of people that he doesn't consider people. He believes them to be second-class citizens, if even that. And the government should wage a campaign of obstruction, oppression, vilification, demonization against that. That's what he's campaigning on, and unfortunately, he could be governor. Any other thoughts about him?
I guess I would just have a question for him if I wanted to give him the time of day and I was finished all my laundry. Who hurt you? It's like, who hurt you? And what you've described there, which is accurate, and that is the platform that he's running on, and that's how he's chosen to live his life, is really he wants to exterminate people. And I find that odd coming from someone who looks like him, but he wants to exterminate people who he deems as different or, in his view, demonic, okay, depending on what you believe. I don't know a God who is calling for the things that he's calling for. It's sick.
Yeah, no, he can talk about this in religious terms. And if I were him, I would too. I need to fill in the blanks on why I have such a broken, busted brain like he does. I would pretend that it has something to do with religion. Obviously it doesn't. That's not what the Bible actually says. What this isn't ideology, this isn't religion, this is undiagnosed mental illness. That's all it is. It comes in various forms, and for some people, this is what it looks like. He has a broken brain, his brain doesn't function. And if you think that only affects the way he sees out groups in society or whatever, well, just give him executive power then, and see what you get when you have a person who can't logically connect the dots. He can't think his way through a day, ruling on a variety of different important topics, choosing what to veto, what to support. That'll be fun for North Carolina. Okay, speaking of broken brains, let's turn to Jesse Waters on parenting.
I just hate how the media talks about the Biden family the way they talk about the Trump family. They keep talking about the way that the father has love for Hunter and how this is this beautiful, special relationship. He's a crackhead. He pays for prostitutes. He squirrels out of alimony, squirrels out of child support. The guy is a wretched, wretched human being. And the Trump kids don't do drugs. They don't even smoke cigarettes. They're a part of the family company. They have beautiful families. And they talk about Eric and Don like they're scoundrels, like Trump doesn't even like his own sons.
Well, we're not saying that Trump doesn't like his sons. Trump implies that he doesn't like his sons. Also, Trump's kids don't do drugs. Don Jr. doesn't do drugs. You want to bet some money on a drug test for that? Anyway, look, this is massive projection. Jesse Waters, again, like every Republican, wants a certain type of God emperor, a certain type of dictator that would be like hot and charismatic and have abs and a beautiful family. They have this ideal. Unfortunately, what they got is Donald Trump. So now they're stuck with it. You go to war with the army you have. And so they have to pretend. They play pretend, and it comes in different forms. When they draw Trump, They give him the V lines that he's literally never had in his life. It's pretend, it's fun. And when they talk about his family, they imply that there's anything healthy about any of this. I'm not gonna judge all of his kids. I honestly don't really care that much about his kids. Ivanka seems okay. I don't know anything about Tiffany. I'm sure she's great or whatever. But the idea that like Don Jr. and Eric aren't scoundrels, but Don Jr. is posting jokes about Paul Pelosi, his assassination. Like, what are you talking about? Just because he hasn't yet been brought up on cocaine charges, you think that that makes him a great guy or whatever? And look at what they have to do. In every case, this is a universal, a constant across the Trump era. Trump does a thing or is a thing or says a thing. So I guess we have to pretend the Democrats did this. So like he has a family that's founded on economic transactions and he's effing around behind all of his wives' backs and he's going off to bang people 2 months after Melania gives birth. So I guess Biden's family is bad or whatever. It has to be, because it can't be that we support one of the most flawed individuals ever in American life. But maybe that is actually what it is. And it gets more personal for Jesse Waters. We'll get to that in a sec, but what do you make of this, Sharon?
Well, number one, if we're gonna drug test Don Jr., can we make sure it's a hair follicle test and he's not wearing a lace front? Because that's what needs to happen if you're gonna get at the truth. I don't really care about the Trump kids either, but if you wanna go there and talk about family, I mean, they allowed their mother to be buried next to like the 18th hole for tax breaks. That's a speculation anyway. What does Jesse Waters know about a loving family? I don't know about his family, but he seems to have lacked hugs, love, or maybe they just giggled at the dinner table every time he said something that lacked empathy about some other group. You know, maybe they were being served by someone that didn't look like them. I don't know, but I don't understand how he gets all these millions of dollars in a primetime slot after the other blowhard got, out of there finally after all of the court cases got settled. I just don't get it. What is it? Is he good looking? Is he that fun, intellectual? I'm not understanding. And maybe I should be a better person and live and let live if that's your kind of thing. But I'm just not that big of a person.
I don't see the appeal. I think that he has a certain sort of like hockey mediocrity that a lot of the white men who watch him look up to. And they're like, well, I don't want to ever have to do anything and still succeed. Look, he did it. Maybe I could do it. But I will say that while your predictions about his family, I totally understand where you're coming from. I don't think that's actually what happened. And I have some evidence to that. We'll get to that in just a sec. But first, I said that it became more personal, and it will. It'll be about his family and about the family he grew up in. But first, his views on parenting outside of just Joe Biden. Take a look at this.
When you raise a son, you are responsible for that son. It's not like raising a daughter, it's different. You have to.
Oh, come on, Jesse.
Every father of a son knows what I'm talking about. You have to mold this child into a man, and that comes with responsibility, discipline, morality, and you have responsibility to send this son into the world as a responsible civilian. Joe Biden didn't do that.
How about the girls? How do you raise your daughter?
I give them everything they want.
Yeah, why would daughters need responsibility or compassion or morality or any of that stuff? That's for men, the real people in society. And you need to teach them before you send them off in the world by screwing around and then slashing the tires of a producer so you can accost her in a parking lot, whatever. Look, I really don't care about his personal life, but he's the one talking about it and it seems eminently mockable. But in any event, he has a son and 3 daughters. I think that this is honestly just this sort of laziness that is so core to who he is. I guess I only need to be responsible for 1 out of the 4. That certainly makes it easier. I don't know. I'm not gonna take advice from him. I have a daughter. I personally think that there's a lot that I can teach her. I hope that there's a lot that she can teach me. That seems healthy to me. Everything that you just saw on the screen wasn't. But before we weigh in on the family, that's him projecting some stuff about his own kids. But what about the person that he was a kid to? Because we had some speculation about what produced him. And it doesn't seem, at least based on the evidence that we have, that it is his parents. Because when he got elevated to this position, because Tucker Carlson was fired in shame and scandal and all that, that'll eventually happen to Jesse Waters, but we're not there yet. Jesse Waters' mother called into the show and had some advice for him. And here it is.
Do not tumble into any conspiracy rabbit holes. We do not want to lose you, and we want no lawsuits.
Okay.
In keeping, I have a list here. In keeping with the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. We need you to be kind and respectful. You yourself mentioned that humble is a stretch, so I get that. Use your voice responsibly to promote conversation that maintains a narrative thread. There really has been enough Biden bashing, and the laptop is old. Perhaps you could suggest that your people take less interest, for example, in other people's bodies, and talk about that.
Oh, wait. We're trying to keep other people's interest away from children's bodies. That was the point of that segment. Mom, I love you.
Wait.
I knew this was a bad idea.
Seek solutions versus fanning the flames. You could encourage that Bedminster friend of yours to return to his earlier career on television. Everyone in his audience could wear a red hat, and I'm sure the ratings would soar.
I love that. You never see that, probably with good reason, but he decided to bring her in. He described her as a Democrat beforehand, by the way, and it seems true. She knows exactly who he is, and obviously still loves him or whatever, but she knows the sort of person he is, what he is predisposed to do. And that was what she said on day one. Now we have hindsight. He didn't take any of her advice because she may understand him. That's why she's warning him. Don't, I know your failings and I know your faults and your weaknesses and your biases and your prejudices and your hatreds and your suspicions and your lusts and all of that. Don't do that stuff. He did. She understands him. She doesn't seem to understand all of the economic incentives, the career incentives, the grift that he is a part of. He has to fan the flames. He's not interested in bringing people together. He's not interested in solutions. She doesn't seem to understand the job at all, even if she does understand her son. What do you make of that?
She sounded so sweet, actually adorable. She sounded adorable. And I noted that even though that's his mother, he really wanted to cut her off. He started trying to, he tried to, but she said, no, you're not gonna do that to me. I'm still your mother. I thought it was telling, interesting, insightful, all the things that you stressed. And I would love to see a follow-up with her. I guess she's banned. She's not allowed back on the show. But in the beginning, they thought, well, this will be cute. It's just mom. I found that to be fascinating. She's the real deal. Wow.
Yeah. And look, maybe his father is more like him. I don't know. Parents can be different. But I don't know. Like I have a really young kid. And I just think like imagine like you do all the stuff that you do, a million moments to try to influence them. And they end up just spreading prejudice and hatred and misogyny and conspiracies. And maybe they believe some of it. Maybe they're lying for money on the rest, but neither one of those is good from the point of view of a parent. I don't speak for her. I can only speak prospectively for myself, but I would be destroyed if that was the end result of everything that I did as a parent. Anyway, let's turn to our last topic very briefly. Do we have time? We have time. Okay, very briefly, let's jump to this.
Place I was, ironically, call it a third world country. Guess what? It looked nicer than a lot of our cities. That's what was perhaps like the biggest takeaway. You're like, I was like, hey man, we're going to El Salvador. This is a place, pretty crazy crime rate in the past, yada yada. We had a pretty awesome detail that was taking care of us and everything like that. But like you look around, it looked incredible. It was we had dinners. We had like 3 meals in restaurants there that rivaled. Literally would have been as good as any meal I have in Miami or New York or like one of these cities. It was sort of shocking actually to me. I was like, may have to buy a place down there so when they throw me out of America, or towards the gulags, we got a place to run.
It's amazing that people listen to literally any of that. But that is Don Jr. talking about the amazement that he experienced on a recent trip to El Salvador, that in his mind, it's shocking that they have good food. It's not even a white country and they have delicious food. The weird baked in racism of that. But it was all towards a goal. of him pitching himself as a victim. He just described how he's a person that gets to go on international trips where he has a detail taking care of him. And he goes to the finest restaurants, he stays in the finest hotels. But don't worry, I'm still a victim because I could be driven out of the United States or thrown to the gulag. I will remind everyone, it's Joe Biden's son that's on trial right now. And it's the Trump family that's saying they're gonna get revenge and they're gonna go after the Democrats if Donald Trump wins. No one has ever made any claims against Don Jr. other than that, and the evidence is in that video that he's clearly on some sort of stimulant or something, and yet he has to pitch himself as being a victim. No, Joe Biden literally has never even talked about him, and he has to pitch himself as being the ultimate victim. It is so sad. It's also not a good plan, Don Jr., because producer Manav actually looked into this. El Salvador has an extradition treaty with the US. So if you were to flee America there, they could just send your ass right back. Sharon, what do you make of that?
And that would be lovely. I don't generally listen to much of what Don Jr. says because like you said, there's something going on there that we can't quite diagnose unless we do get that hair follicle. I wonder where Kimberly Guilfoyle is. This guy is just kind of just drifting aimlessly. He's whatever age he is, he's been on this planet for decade after decade, and he's not any further along. He can't get out of his father's shadow, and he's not even good at that. He's not even good at living up to his father's grift and nonsense. He's just a drain. El Salvador has some good culinary schools, actually, and good cuisine, which I'm sure he knows nothing about, but go ahead. Don't tell him that they will extradite him right back here. Let him run there and then we'll collect him when we're ready.
100%. Yeah, it's almost like it's a whole country with a history and people and culture and art and society and like a real place with real people. It's amazing to think of. Anyway, I just want to quickly point out this comment on the video that says, "Oh, that'll be a great video to play during the flight risk portion of his bail hearing." Again, it's just jokes. No one is making any claims of any charges against him or whatever. He's a rich fail son. He goes off and he breaks the law and he does his drugs and God knows what else. And nobody's coming after him or anything else like that. But my final point is what you said. Like, it's not that he can't get out of his father's shadow. He has never given across any idea that he wants to. No. He copies his father in business, and I'm sure they give him some fake books that don't actually have anything to do with the business for him to play with or whatever, and he draws them in crayon. And then his father goes into politics, so he's like, I'll make a podcast. Mm-hmm. Why? Why don't you do something for yourself, something that you actually have skills at? Why don't you have any ambitions, any aspirations? It's just, he's just desperately trying to look like his father so that maybe his father will love him. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Jesse Waters tells me they have a great family. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for our show. Thank you as always, Sharon, for joining us for Big News Wednesday. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine. You actually made me feel sorry for Don Jr. right at the end there, just a little bit. I'll recover, but I think you're absolutely right. Wow.
Wow. Well, don't feel too bad. The dude's awful. But anyway, that's all the time we have. Everyone, I am going to be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour in the bonus episode of the Young Turks later on today. It will be the first time that she will see me with the purple hair. So tune in live for her to likely roast me. But that should be a lot of fun. For now, though, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.